What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty here with another episode of Steelers Touch and Under, bringing to you the curious case of the Steelers cornerbacks, starting with the release of Desmond King, or the impending release. So a couple of hours ago, before I recorded this, it was broken the news that information had been given to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network that the Steelers had told Desmond King they planned to trade him or release him before the trade deadline, depending on whether they can find a trade partner. Now, usually that means they're kind of not going to find a trade partner, and they're asking him to go find one, or he's going to get released. So go find one, or get your agents to start talking. Fair enough. The rumor is that, according to the speculation, is that the Steelers will go get Darius Rush off the Chiefs practice squad. He's about 6'2", 295 pounds off the top of my head, and that's all well and good. You're going to make these moves. That's why the Steelers keep $3 to $4 million minimum per year in salary cap for during the season, because you make these moves, you get injuries, you try new things, doesn't always work. Fine. We saw that last year with William Jackson III, for example. But I do find it, and this is why I'm calling it the curious case of the Steelers cornerbacks. Less than 24 hours ago, Mike Tomlin fronted a press conference where he was asked a question by Locked On Steelers, and I saw this live in the interview. I happened to be up in the middle of the night, Australian time, and he smashed Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers from Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who asked a question that basically said, are you concerned about the DBs because your team and your secondary has led in the 8th most amount of yards? And Mike Tomlin shut that down with, we're focused on wins. I don't care about specific data points, etc., etc. I kind of didn't love the way he handled the question. I thought it was a fair question from Chris Carter. I think it's fair for Tomlin to say we're focused on wins, not individual stats. But the way he shut that down, I thought was a little bit aggressive. Fine, that's his prerogative. But equally, I find that and this is why I'm calling it the curious case, because less than, a number of hours later, not even like 10 to 12 hours later, when you look at the time these first articles broke around the news around Tom Pelissero, the Steelers are releasing a cornerback. Now, fine. Levi Wallace got a couple of interceptions. Pat P's looked better the last couple of weeks. Joe Porter's working himself in. They've got confidence in James Pierre. I don't. Shannon Sullivan, I think that he could be used a little bit more. So they've got cornerbacks using them. We've seen Minka a little bit in the slot, cornerback position at times this season. Kazi can do a little bit of that as well. So I don't think it's an issue of losing a man at the cornerback position, but it is a curious case when the Steelers have let in a lot of yards from their DBs. And so in defense of Chris Carter, I kind of thought I'll have a look and actually see where this is sitting. Now, right now, on the season, Levi Wallace has led in 302 yards. Patrick Peterson's led in 248, right? They both have, Patrick Peterson has 1 interception. Levi Wallace has 2 interceptions. Cool. But Levi Wallace only led in 650 last year. In 9 games he started, 15 games he played. In 15 games, he allowed 53.2% completion and 650 yards. Through 5 games, 4 started this season, he's allowed 57.1% completion on the passes thrown his way and 302 yards. So he's about 40% there of last year's target in literally a third of the games versus what he played. Patrick Peterson equally led in almost 700 yards, 696 yards last year at 59.6%. Now he's lowered that to 58.6%, but it's almost 250 yards, which means he's on over a third of what he led in last year, and he played in 17 games last year. So, I am a little bit concerned about the Steelers' cornerback position. It's not that they're releasing Desmond King, or that they're bringing Darius Rush. That's not the concerning bit for me. Yeah, that's the headline news. But the concerning thing for me is, cool if they trust in Joe Porter Jr., but the secondary isn't working. Mike Tomlin can say he doesn't like that stat and he cares about wins, but I talked about this as a really important piece down the stretch for the Steelers, and I talked about it with Mark on TDU earlier this week in the Mad Monday show about this is one of the things that's got to be done if the Steelers are going to win out down the stretch. And so I'm very interested to see, fine if Desmond King's not the answer, what does Darius Rush bring to the team? And equally, how does this play get better? The other added element that makes it a curious case of the Steelers cornerbacks is the fact that Terrell Austin, as we know, is a defensive backs coach by trade. he's the defensive coordinator. Now, that worked for the Steelers last year. They had most interceptions in the league, and it was 19 off the top of my head. They're already on, I think it's 4 for the season so far. So that's a good sign. Like the Steelers, from an interception perspective, doing well. But the yardage perspective is really, it is concerning right now. I mean, they've let in 1,327 yards passing in 5 games. So you'll say, well, Matt, that's not even 300 yards a game. But it's been AFC North football. It's been running the football. Every team they've versed has pretty much had a strong running game, except kind of for the Houston Texans and the LA and the Raiders. We expected them to know. But the Houston Texans, I expect to have a better run game than they did. Nick Chubb was out early as well. So, it's been a little bit different there. But the Steelers have allowed that 1,300 yards. Now, in fairness to Mike Tomlin, when you pick up those stats, they're letting less than 60%. They've allowed 60%, less than 60% completion on the passes thrown their way with 59.3%. That's pretty cool. So basically, that's 108 from 180 thrown their way toward the defensive players. But that's a lot of yardage. Now, half of that's coming through the air. Fine. That is what it is. But almost 500 yards of that 1,327 is coming from yak yardage, which is about tackles. And the Steelers have an average missed tackle right now of 9.6%. So they're missing 1 in 10 tackles. That's a little bit concerning. When you look at it, though, and you look at the defensive backs, Levi Wallace is missing 16%. Peterson's missing almost a third of his tackles at 31.8%. So as I say, there's definitely some sort of a curious case of the Steelers cornerbacks. And I'm kind of interested to see how that all plays out, not just this weekend against the Rams, but also throughout the season. But we'd love to know what you think about the Steelers cornerbacks and, what's going on there as well. It just feels a little bit off. Something's off. Something's not right. But that's all right. I'm sure the Steelers will figure out, and they'll go out there and beat the Rams this week away. As always, go Steelers.